Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to my studio. This is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to go over the steps on how to paint a cartoon looking pug. And this video series is actually spurred off of one of my more popular classes at my studio. And my most popular class is Paint Your Pet. Since the majority of my students are either first-time painters or beginner painters, I'm creating this series specifically for you guys because I do want you guys painting at home. I want you to kind of find that escape from life and reality by being able to have a creative outlet at your house. So these videos are for those of you that want to paint at home. There are going to be kits in the description box below, so that way you can purchase that kit and get all your supplies that you need for this particular painting. So check that out. The other thing that I'm going to stress as you look at this video series is as you paint, I don't want you to take this really seriously. I want you to have fun. I want you to relax. I want you to color outside the line, get a little expressive, get a little sloppy. Because with this series of paintings, all I want you to do is just get practice, more and more practice. If you end up doing this video multiple times and switch out colors, awesome. One of the other things that you're going to see with this videos is at the beginning what I call a traceable. And there will be another video that talks about how to transfer your traceable to your panel or your canvas, so check that out. But the traceables are kind of like coloring book pages. You can purchase them and print them off, transfer them to your canvas or your panel, and you can transfer it as many times as you want. But that way you don't have to stress about getting that drawing done exactly or trying to draw it freehand. All right, I think that kind of takes care of it. As you go through the process, I want you to breathe and relax and enjoy the process. So let's get started painting. All right, so go ahead and get to your table where you've got your setup. I want you to turn on your favorite music, and if you're at home, turn it up pretty loud or put some headphones on so that way you can kind of be in your own world. As always, make sure you take your progress photos. It will help you so much more tomorrow, so make sure you do that. Now our first step that we're going to do, now that you've got your traceable on your canvas or on your surface, we're going to use our small pointy brush, and we're going to be using black paint and going to outline everything that you just transferred, all those lines of that pug. Now as you're painting those lines, I want you to notice the pressure of your brush. I want you to just kind of get more comfortable with how much you're pushing your brush against the canvas. The harder you push your brush against the canvas, the wider or fatter the lines they're going to make. The lighter you touch your brush to the canvas, the skinnier the lines they make. So I want you to just kind of play with that. This is a good place to practice this. And don't stress if you happen to have some lines that are thicker than others. Maybe some are really skinny. A couple places it's a little too wider than you would want. Don't stress about that. This is a good place for practice. We will be repeating this step at the very end after we've put our colors on here, and I'm going to encourage you to make the lines thicker when we do this at the end of the painting. So again, this is just for practice. As with this entire painting, I just want you to get more comfortable with your tools, with the pressure of your brush, with mixing paint. I just want you to get more and more comfortable. Now, when you get to the eyes on your pug, you'll notice that I actually fill in the pupil. And do take note on the drawing where the pupil is compared to the catchlight. And make sure you fill it in appropriately. If you do happen to fill in your catchlight, don't stress. You can redo your catchlight at the end of the painting with pure white paint. So again, don't stress about it. Here we are filling in the pupil on the right eyeball. And as I did my lines here, I did actually start from left to right. So that way, since I'm right-handed, my arm didn't rest in wet paint if I had started on the right-hand side. I don't always do that, but it does help when I remember to. So a little tip there. And again, if you are holding your breath, please breathe. You're doing a great job. I know sometimes it feels weird. Keep going. So once you've got your line drawing on there, pause the video and take a progress picture. And if you're not done, you don't have to keep up. That was a little speed painting, so pause the video and finish your lines. All right, so here we're going to be going into the background, and I'm going to be making kind of a medium purple shade or a lavender color here. And I did put some white on there and blend my purple in with it to get to the shade that I wanted. And I am using the small flat brush now. It gives me a little bit more wider coverage. If you went straight into painting your lines to painting your background, do be cautious if your black paint is still wet, so that way you don't get it in with your background color. If you do happen to get some of that black paint in your background color, you can wipe it off with a paper towel and apply fresh color, or you can let it dry and apply your background color on top of it again after it dries. So you got a few options there. As you're applying your paint for the background, I do want you to apply it a little bit thicker than you may be comfortable with. I want you to think about kind of buttering your toast or icing a cake as you're applying your paint. You want enough pigment that you pick up so that way when you put your brush on your panel or your canvas, your brush actually kind of glides back and forth. It just kind of helps with the process and with moving the paint around. And a lot of beginner painters tend to put it on a little bit thinner. So here what I'm doing is I actually slap some straight purple paint on top of the lavender color and then moved my brush on top of it. And this is what we call a wet on wet blending method. So introducing that new color onto your background and moving your brush, you're blending the two colors directly on your canvas. It is exactly the same thing as blending your paint on your plate. You're just actually doing it on your background instead. So play around with that. It's actually quite therapeutic. Many people find that to be their favorite part of painting the background. And here I'm doing it with a little bit of white too. You will notice that the white diffuses very quickly in with the other colors. So if you want to keep some of that saturation of the white, slap it on there and just move your brush once or twice. All right, pause the video, finish your background, and then snap a progress picture. And we're going to be using burnt umber, and we're going to be painting the darkest parts of our two-toned pug. With the darkest parts will be those ears and then that muzzle and the mask around the eyes. So we're painting the darkest parts right now. I did move it back to the small pointy brush just so I could make smaller brush strokes. And again, if you're applying this and you do happen to go on top of those black lines, do not stress about it. And I do realize that my hand is kind of in the way for some of the areas that you're looking at. So it is very important at those points when it says pause the video and look at the shape of the color I just placed on there and where they're placed. So that way you can kind of get a general area for where you're placing them on your painting. And should you make some of these areas larger than I paint them or smaller, again, don't stress about it. You're getting good practice. Nice. And again, even with this, depending on what brand of paint you are using, your burnt umber could be a little bit more on the transparent side. And if that is the case, just apply your paint a little bit thicker. This is acrylic paint, so it dries in about 20 to 30 minutes. And as always, as we go through the process today and paint this really cute little pug, I want you to trust your instincts. If you feel like switching out a color or using something different, listen to that. I want you to trust that. All right, so you can pause the video, see where the burnt umber was added. We will be making a kind of a medium burnt umber for our next color. And that will be using white and mixing your burnt umber with it. And again, we're going for kind of a medium shade here. And we're going to be filling in basically the rest of the muzzle, the nose, around the eyes, and both the ears. You're going to be filling it in with this color. If you happen to paint on top of your burnt umber, again, don't worry about it. We will be putting more burnt umber on here at a later time. And do try to get lost in the process of just even moving the paint across the canvas. It is a very therapeutic process to kind of get lost in. And I do hope while you're painting this that you kind of forget about anything that's happening at work, any of the drama with friends or family, any bad traffic you might have gone through, or anything that upset you. This is a good place to just kind of let all of that go, melt away, and realize that the world's not as bad when you're painting. Again, this is your happy zone. This is your safe space to just relax. If you haven't gotten into the adult coloring books, kind of either get into them or use this in place of using the coloring books, because this is kind of the same concept. You're just going to get so focused and filling in the space with these different colors that you'll be relaxed and refreshed and hopefully maybe ready to go to bed and get up for the next day and have a really good day. But you do have to take time for yourself to do these. So I'm still using that light, medium light burnt umber, and I'm going into the wrinkles, adding some shadows around there, and even filling in some more of that right ear. And he's already turned it out to be such a cute little guy. If you're feeling adventurous and maybe this is the second or third time that you're doing this painting, I encourage you to swap out colors. Maybe instead of the burnt umber, maybe you use blue and then a light blue for the lighter colors. And then maybe when we get into our next colors, instead of using the raw sienna or the portrait pink, maybe you use green. You know, get expressive. You can swap out any colors that I'm using here and just kind of see what you can create. If you do those, and even those that are doing the traditional colors that I'm doing here, please send me a picture. Email paintingwithlovejoy@gmail.com. Send me photos, tag me in your paintings. I really like to see what you guys create and how diverse you're going to get with the variations that you can do on this. And again, tag me at Paint with Lovejoy. I actually really look forward to seeing those. All right. I think we should be pausing the video here shortly, so that way you can see where the light burnt umber went. And I'm actually just using the small brush. If there's any little white holes or little dots of the canvas that you can still see, go ahead and fill those in with the small pointy brush and your light umber color. All right, and take your progress picture. So on this one, we're going to be going into the lighter areas. You can use a light portrait pink or even your raw sienna, kind of your choice which one that you'll be using. I believe I have the light portrait pink on here, and I'll be mixing it with some white. And we're going to be moving into the lighter areas of our pug's fur. And just like the darker areas, we're going to do a darker and then a lighter area. So we're putting in kind of our shadow values right now. Again, those will be kind of around the wrinkles, a few little places underneath the chin, places where we need to give that illusion that we have a 3D object here painted on a flat 2D surface. Again, should you overlap any of your burnt umber areas, do not stress about that. If it ends up being a huge area that you end up painting over, just let it dry and paint that original color back on there. I do hope you are enjoying your music that you have on right now. And if you are of age and you have an adult beverage, hopefully that is relaxing you a little bit as well. If you don't have any of those, just take a deep breath for me and relax. You're doing a great job. You're kind of letting any troubles or worries kind of melt away. You're going to have a completed painting in a little less than a half hour or so, and you'll be better off and more relaxed for it. So still adding some kind of shadow values here in the lighter sections of our pug, giving him a shadow underneath his chin so that way he has some separation from his head and his body. Yep. It's starting to come together. If you feel like it, there we go. Pause the video, take a progress picture. We're going to be making a lighter color and filling in the remaining space. So still using whether we're using your raw sienna or your light portrait pink. We're going to be doing a much lighter shade. So you're going to take a good amount of that white and just a little bit of that portrait pink or your raw sienna and mix it in there. And basically we will be filling in the remaining space of our pug's fur. We will come back and give him a tongue and some eye colors, but this is the last lighter color for the pug's fur. And as you're filling in that space, if your darker area happens to still be wet, you can blend the two together. So that way you have a bit more of a gradient, a buffer between the two colors. If it happens to already be dry, you have a bit more of a pop art style painting, and don't stress about that. Keep those edges a little bit sharper and kind of see how that looks. You might end up liking it a little bit more too. It has a different feel. And if you have a particular pug that you are thinking about right now, think about them and smile. Give them some love. Put that energy into your painting right now. Or if you have a friend that has a pug, share this video with them, or even better yet, paint a painting for them and give it to them as a gift. For me, as I'm painting, I don't actually feel like I've begun to paint until I've filled in all the canvas space. And it amazes me every time I paint how much better the painting feels as soon as all that canvas space is filled in. And you'll get to see that here once we get to the eyes and the tongue and the rest of the gum line there. But it's kind of a fun transformation to watch. You know, this was a blank canvas not too long ago, and we're already getting a 3D object on there. We got this cute little pug, and it's kind of coming to life before our eyes. Kind of like magic, which I think is a good answer for a lot of things. All right, so now I'm actually taking that same light portrait pink and placing it on top of some of the burnt umber areas on the snout. And it's kind of cool to see that this same color that we just put on the main fur, when we put it on top of the burnt umber, it looks a little bit different. And that's a little bit of color theory because we interpret our colors based on the color that's right next to it. And again, as I'm adding this, it's actually just kind of little dots that I'm placing on top of there, on top of the light burnt umber, and creating some highlights. So again, when we get to the place to pause the video, pause it and use your skills of observation to see where these shapes and these colors were placed. Nice. Yep. So pause the video and check out where that lighter color was added. And now we're going to be going back to our burnt umber, back to that gum line, filling in some more of that space. And this is one of my first batches of videos for this series, so I will be experimenting with different camera angles so that way my hand isn't covering as much. I am on a budget, so figuring out where I can get extra cameras and maybe get 2 different angles to shoot from. But you will see where I'll be experimenting and trying other things. So here I'm actually taking some of that burnt umber and mixing it with a little bit of black to go a little bit darker in the gum line, and painting right on top of that burnt umber that I had already painted. And now pretty much filling in everything except the tongue. We will make a light tongue pink color for that. And now I went back to some white, adding a highlight on that bottom jaw. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, look and see where those particular colors were added, and then we're going to be making a light pink for our tongue. So you're going to pull a little bit of white aside, a smidge, a pinpoint of red is going to go a long way to make our light shade of pink. And again, you're going to fill in that entire space, that entire tongue shape, with this light pink. Nice, we're getting there where it's almost filled in. So now we're going to make a darker pink. So I'm going to grab more red, mix it in with that pink I was just using, and then towards the back of the tongue we're going to add some, and I'm making little dots. So kind of overlapping dots as I create this shape on the back of the tongue. And this helps give us some shading. We're going to make one more color after this and place it on top. Take another progress picture here. So right now, still with that same color, but just kind of blending some out. Now we're going to make a grayish pink. So I'm going to grab a smidge of that black. And since my pink paint is still wet, I'm lightly touching my brush on top of that so it's mixing with the pink on the canvas. And you can kind of see how it gets that grayish pink. And again, I'm still keeping that towards the back of the tongue. Now staking that grayish pink, I'm going to go on top of the gum line because they do have a little bit of pinkish gums on top of that. And you can see where I'm placing that on either side of the tongue. All right, another place for your progress picture, and pause the video and see where everything is at. All right, so now I'm taking raw sienna for the eyes. If you would like to change the color of your pug's eyes, feel free. If you want them to have blue eyes, or if you want darker reddish brown or even yellow eyes, this is totally your call. And again, filling in the eye space on both eyes. Nice. All right, so another progress picture. All right, now we're going to be moving back to black paint. And we're going to be redoing those outlines. So again, the small pointy brush. And I'm going to push a little bit harder with my brush as I redo all those outlines that we did at the beginning of the painting. If you don't want to do this step, you do not have to. This is completely optional. But by doing these outlines again, this is what kind of gives it a bit more of that cartoon, that pop art feel. And you will see as I'm doing this that I do kind of put my pinky out sometimes. I use that as leverage to steady my hand as I'm using the brush. Give that a try, or even placing your forearm against the table. If you are in a group and a bunch of you are painting, just be kind of conscious if you're putting your elbows on the table, if you're making the table move a little bit, that will affect the others that you are painting with. If you're painting by yourself, then just be conscious of if you're shaking the table for you. Nice. And again, as I do these lines, I am making them wider than what I originally painted, so that way it's overlapping all the colors, all the shapes that it's around, and like I said, giving it a bit more of that cartoon feel. If you're not liking using the small pointy brush to make these lines, feel free to use the flat brush and use it sideways. It will hold a little bit more paint, and you can kind of cover a little more area a little bit quicker. If the paint that you are using is rather thick, it's got a very thick viscosity, you can water it down a little bit with some water. You never want more than 30% water compared to your paint. Or if you have any matte medium or thinner for your acrylics that came with the brand that you bought, feel free to utilize that. And that just kind of increases the flow of your acrylics. Nice. And as you're doing these final details on your cute little pug, I do want you to smile. You should feel accomplished. This is looking really good. And just the fact that you showed up and actually went through the steps of painting, I'm very proud of you. I do want you to keep painting. Keep taking other classes, keep trying other YouTube videos, try some of the other ones that I have out there, try some from other artists. There is so many sources at your fingertips, literally, that just give it a try. Because I promise, the more that you practice, the better you're going to get, and just the more comfortable and the more confidence you will have. And that's really what I want to see. I just want to see everybody having a good time, finding kind of their groove and even their style. I do consider painting kind of like everybody's handwriting. Everybody has their own style. And you can't really imitate somebody else's style. I mean, you can try, but we all have our own voice, our own handwriting, our own painting style. And that's all you're doing right now, is finding out what your style is, what your comfort level is. So again, great job, and thank you so much for painting with me. I am always honored when people take time out of their day to get creative, either with me at the studio or here at your house while I get to talk to you through YouTube. So thank you for painting today. An option, should you do this video again in the future, if you want to switch out and maybe do blue outlines here instead of black, or even red outlines, that would give you a completely different kind of pop art feel. Again, feel free to switch it up and experiment. You also have that traceable that you got for this video. Use it as many times as you can, or as you want. Or if you still have the file, print it off again. And you don't have to do it just for painting. You can do this on a regular sheet of paper and use colored pencils, use crayons, use gouache, use watercolor. You can use just about anything. Use this template. Paint other stuff. Create other objects. Keep creating. Nice. So this guy's coming along really well. This is a really fun video series. I'm going to try to do pretty much all the dog breeds, different cat breeds, and I'll even open it up to you guys what you want me to paint in the future, what breeds or specific animals you want me to do. All right, so it looks like we've just got the back and I think a few little wrinkles on the inside. If you happen to paint over your catch light, that white dot in the eyes, go ahead and redo that after your black paint dries. And you want to just put a dot over the same spot that they were originally at. And just take your pure white paint, place a dot on there, and pull your brush right back. But go ahead and redo that if you need to. Oh, and I have a feeling, oh, very light umber. Here we go. We're going to put some little highlights around the eyes. And these are going to be short little brush strokes, little dots or little dash marks. And it was white with a little bit of burnt umber. And this is going to help bring some more contrast to the eyes. Again, I apologize, my hand is right there, so hopefully you can see it when I move to the next eye, or definitely pause the video to see where the light areas were. And I'm putting a little bit right underneath the eyes, kind of like eyeliner. And again, this draws more attention to our eyes of our pug. And then putting a few little highlights up there for where those eyebrows are. And we got a little bit of a highlight on the nose and even the cheek. We're imagining that the sun is kind of coming from that left-hand side. And a lot of times by putting a lighter color on top of a darker color gives us, again, what we call a contrast, and it helps things kind of pop a little bit more. And again, if you need to do those catch lights again, I did actually do them in this video. So just placing that pure white right on top of that same white area. And putting a few little highlights on the tongue as well. Oh, this little pug gets some teeth in there, so these little blobs back there on top of his gums, just to give the impression that we have teeth. All right, well, great job, you guys. Thanks again so much for joining me. And I hope you enjoyed the process, and I hope you do it again. Share it with some of your friends, and above anything else, please keep painting and getting creative. Have a great day. Hey guys, I hope you painted a super cute cartoon pug. As you're uploading these to your social media sites, tag me at Paint with Lovejoy. I do like to see the things that you guys create and how much you're evolving and growing with the process. So tag me in your paintings. All right, so question of the day. What was your favorite part about today's painting? Leave those in the comments below. I like to see what you guys are enjoying. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Leave comments about other breeds or other animals that you would like me to teach this process through. And as always, thank you so much for showing up today and actually painting. Just the fact that you're going through that process is amazing. Keep doing it. You get better and more comfortable. I'm proud of you for making it this far already. So hope you have a great day. I look forward to seeing you in another video and continuing to paint with you. And yeah, have a great day. Cheers. Plane pause. We're gonna pick up with traceables. Plane. Hopefully I got enough of that before the plane came through. We are gonna pick up with Don't Take This Seriously.